Come paint with me with acrylic paint. This beautiful picture, I will share it so you have the reference photo of my friend who lives in Oregon. And she just takes the most gorgeous photos. And every time she posts one, I'm like, oh, I want to paint one of those. And so today I decided I am going to paint one of those. So I did a rough sketch. You can see I basically just kind of scribble. Didn't plan too much about because it's fairly kind of easy-ish. You just basically need a horizon waterline, kind of where the water ends a little bit, and then we're just gonna fill it in as we paint. Now, I have a lot of fancy acrylics, and I also have a lot of craft paint, these guys. And I love them. They are great. I have a whole bunch of different kinds, but the majority of the paint I have is from DecoArt. I have some of the new stuff that's really nice to paint with. And I want to see, so I have a whole bunch of different kinds of DecoArt, which is a brand I really like. And then a little Martha Stewart one, which I don't even know where it come from, and Folkart also in here. But these are the ones I have that I'm going to use. This is like a wood panel. Really cute. I love to paint on these. It's a 6x6, so it's really small. That's why the ruler was here. I just wanted to confirm the size. 6x6. It's really small. It's really cute. It will not take you very long to paint, and sometimes smaller is a little easier. A little bit less detail. So with acrylic paints, the difference is we have to start background and then layer it up. We always start with kind of dark areas, and we'll get to that when I get there. So the sky is a very soft, peachy kind of yellow. So I have like, oh my, this was very excited to come out. I have a yellow that says school bus yellow. Any darker yellow will do. I have one that says apricot blush. Gonna get a little, I must say the bottles are more, so these you can kind of squish. This one is a little stiff. I sometimes feel a surprise. I have a plain white. And I also have a sandstone. Again, they are very stiff, so a little tricky for them to come out. I also have a Prussian blue. I'm going to take a little bit of this out, but I also have a maritime blue. Sometimes I don't know about these names. Again, very hard to squish it out. That's the only kind of, or maybe I just have not strong hands. And I'm going to get a little of vivid orange. Yeah, I'm going to start with that to begin with. Now, I am taking a big brush. One that looks like this. It's kind of like an index size. Yeah. Actually, I want one with a little bit stiffer. So the longer your bristles, the more flimsy it kind of is to paint with. The shorter or the more stiffer your bristles, the nicer it is to paint with. I'm not a brush snob, so you can use whatever brushes you have. Doesn't matter to me. You need your coffee. So I'm going to take a sip. Yeah. Then I'm not going to make a shadow. And I'm going to start dipping into the white, the yellow, and a little bit of that creamy color, and I'm going to see what it looks like. Love it. So I dip, 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 paint. It looks a little bit different on the wood because the wood is not white. Dip, dip, dip. Dip a little bit more in the white. I'm going over. So if you make your pencil lines dark, you can go, because you don't want to do an outline. You want to go straight, straight to get your sky really pretty. And then I'm going to add a little bit more yellow in here. I dip, dip, dip instead of scoop because I don't want it to be too wet, too bubbly. I like the smooth painting. So if I can just quickly show you, I like to paint real smooth. Yeah, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to introduce a tiny bit of, so about a finger, yeah. I'm going to introduce a little bit peach or blush. And I'm using the tip of my brush to kind of start that movement, maybe a tiny bit of orange. Even if you want to introduce a color, I sometimes just do a little mix with it. Yeah. So then when I start painting, it's not a very strong color, but it's darker than the one I had. And I use my brush to the side and I use basically the tippy. I went a little crazy, but it's okay. I mean, it doesn't have to look exactly like the reference photo. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and mix it in that color. So I'm using the same spot. And then I want to come back and very soft, like gentle. I should have set my phone so it doesn't. Yeah, I went a little too high, but I think it's fine. And I'm going to put this in my water cup right here. And I'm quickly going to set my phone to so it can stay on. Okay. Now I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm going to take like a small round brush. And I'm taking my blue and I'm taking a little of the peach and a little bit of the orange. I actually need a purple. Hold on. Let me just get a little purple. This is a aubergine. Peach. Yes, okay, so peach and purple is and a little bit of blue is better. And sometimes you just don't know what it looks like until you start mixing it. Making it a little softer. And I'm going to start here. And I want to use the movement of circles. Maybe dip a little in that cream color. Maybe a little more. And I do not have a lot of paint on my brush. And I kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Also a little softer. We are working on this, so it doesn't look good yet. I'm getting a little bit more peachy in here. So I keep on mixing on the same spot, right? So you want to mix. So it always feels like instead of making a new color, you kind of just want to mix with it. So it kind of still feels like the same color. I'm gonna go a little in here, a little softer, a little bit more peachy. This peach is gorgeous. I'm peaching it a little bit more here. I'm gonna clean my brush. Make sure when you dry it to get all the water out of it. So make sure you squeeze it. And then I'm gonna come from the other side. So I'm gonna add a little bit of the peach and the yellow and the white. And I'm adding tiny circles. And sometimes instead of washing my brush, I would just kind of take a little bit of paint off with my paper, my towel. And a soft, 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 very little paint. Circle effects to get that soft kind of mixing going. And then we're going to come back here and we add a little bit of blue again, tiny bit of purple, small amount of orange, white. And then I'm going to come from this side. So I don't really want to wash my brush too many times. And then I get a little bit more peach. And I'm doing it from this side. And now I think I will clean my brush. Make sure you squeeze out all the water. When your brush is wet, you can come back and soften that line a little. I'm adding a bit more of the white into my cloudiness so I can come from this side and just give that little soft glow there. And again, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Clean your brush. Make sure you suck it up and use your wet brush to blend. It's like a cute little cloud. Oops, right here. I'm going to use the same spot here at the top. I'm going to make a line. Even if you touch a water cup, make sure it's so little. Making a line. Give a little peach here at the top. So whenever you have blue and purple and you add some orange to it, it gives it like kind of a like a dirty kind of feel. Cloud. Clean your brush, come back with your peach and yellow and white. And a little bit of this green. Sandstone, I should say sandstone. If you think you have too much paint, just take your towel and clean it a little bit. And you can blend it a bit in. So you don't have to cover it, you can kind of just soften that color. I'm going to do a little more to my cloud. And small circles. One tiny little bit of purple to your yellow. Can just give it like a nice darker yellow, but so little purple. And you can just kind of come in here. Again, small, soft circles. So I want to make it a little more, just a little softer. I think my color is too dark. So I'm just going to come back again here with the peach, the yellow, the orange, the purple, the blue. The blue. Let me just see. No, I think this one. Gonna and sometimes if you use a beige instead of a white, it just lightens it up differently versus the white can make it just to like a pastel kind of feel. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna make it a little more softer. Yeah, and then we're moving on. So this was with the round brush and basically a few circles here and there. And mixing is hard. So just know mixing color is hard. And to know how much paint to use and all of those things is something you will get used to. Some people like to pile up more paint, and of course, that's pretty. You can do it. Me, I kind of like this soft, smooth effect. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same color. So blue, orange, purple, a little bit of that peach. I always make sure that I get all sides of my paintbrush too, so it looks the same from all the sides. And I'm painting the water. So now let me just look. The water is kind of the same color all the way. Now you can use this brush, which may be a little too hard to paint with. Yeah. Switch to a flat brush. And now I may not have enough paint. But same thing, make sure you twisty. And then you can use your brush kind of as a coloring, like if you're coloring in. So your first layer is going to be very weird. And of course, it will be great if you can mix the same amount of paint or a big amount of paint, but I am not good at that. So make sure you point your brush, get that nice line. For the ocean. Then we want to come back with white and maybe some of that sandstone. So it's not so white, but some of the sandstone and make a lighter color right here. Using the first color and then adding some white and some of that sandstone. Use a flat brush. So your bristles needs to be together like this. So if your bristles are like wild like this, it's not going to work so well. So make sure your bristles are small. And then you want to come, so it's going to make mix because it's wet, but you're going to come and side to side, bring back waves. And go all the way across. All the way, a little bit here. Make sure your line stays skinny. So when you've done your first layer, you want to come back with a little bit more white cream. And especially here, closest to your beach, you want to come even more. Now, I like it that that my brush is not so perfect because it kind of shows more watery effects and choppy waterline. And as you lose some of your paint, it's more like a dry brush kind of here at the top. And then you build up the layer. So maybe come even a bit more white. Make sure you clean your brush well. And then make it a little wet. So a little bit more runny. And then really go side to side. And cover a little bit more. Especially close to your beach. And let it dry. Yeah, we are not done with that. It's kind of our first layer. Okay, let's get some brown down. So I'm gonna get a little brown, adding tiny amount of orange and some white. Maybe a little peach, maybe some of the blue. And I'm making the peach. I'm adding some white to it too. Little yellow. Now be careful if you have a lot of blue, then it can turn green. If you have a lot of blue in your sand. Beach looks good. Adding some purple in that color. So see how I kind of like to just mix a little bit and then add on the same, building on the same color. Okay, so we know our ocean is not done, but sometimes you need to just build it up. I'm gonna take some of the cream color with my brush that still have some brown on it, and I'm just gonna come in here, add maybe a little blue. Yeah, I don't waste it. And I'm adding some white, and I kind of just wanna, this is where the gravel kind of is, or the dirt, or I'm not even sure. Okay, let's go into our mountain. So my brown is too bright. It is chestnut brown. So I'm adding some blue to make it darker, like a dark blue. And then I want to paint up and down, up and down, mixing a little bit of the paint, the brown as I go, maybe some of the cream. Up and down, up and down. We don't want to make smooth, but we want to make sure you go over your pencil line. For me, I have to turn so I can point to make a smooth line. And just get all of that out of the way. And then come back, up and down. Okay, so by now makes it pretty. It's just kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. but we do see some rocks. So this is the first layer. And add a tiny bit of water to this. So with the flat brush whose bristles are together, so it's a little easier, you can paint, you can make that edge uneven. So it looks like the trees. The trees you see over here. And I want to do uneven edges here. So to make your paintbrush a little wet with water, just kind of make it a little bit easier to paint. But not too wet, just like a little tiny bit. Just so you can kind of mix it in and make your acrylics a little bit more fluid. So I'm just going to go all the way, make uneven edges. Okay, now we want to do some of these details. So, so basically you see light areas, dark areas, light areas, dark areas, light areas, dark areas. So we have the dark, we have to come back and do the light areas. I'm going to take the brown. I'm going to add some of the peach. I'm going to see what it looks like on top. So I am going to a little more. And they're not really straight. They go a little bit with an angle. So I need to curve it a little. I'm going to also come back with a little bit of a yellow, but I have to be careful not to do it on top of the blue because it can turn into a green. So the yellow with some of the brown. Make some nice color. And I try to use very little paint. Adding some white or some of the sandstone. And then just kind of touch. Very little paint. And you keep on layer as it gets drier. So it's easier to layer when it is getting more drier. Because then you don't over mix. And obviously more layers takes longer time, but if you keep on jumping around and you come back and you add a little bit, it does make it look pretty. And very little paint. I'm gonna do here, kind of side to side. I went up and down the whole time. Looks so weird. Okay. And for now, I'm going to leave that like that. And we're going to start working here on the, and then we're going to come back and do a few things. I always say I will stop and then I see something and I'm just like, oh, let me just quickly touch there. Okay, let's go down to, I'm going to get some dark green. So this green is really dark. It's called Deep Forest. It is so beautiful. Again, the only thing is these bottles are very hard to squishy. Just not used to that. And I'm not even washing my brush. I'm just using the same one. And what I want to do is I want to fill in, I'm going to even add a little bit of brown. And I'm going to fill brown, the dark green. Kind of like that. I kind of still keep smooth, but kind of go all over, crisscross. Make sure you go all the way, wherever your beach ended. I'm also going to make a little bush here. It looks very dark, but it is definitely a green. But you can see how messy I painted. Then I'm going to take, let me just take a lighter green too. So I have one that says moss green. A little bit lighter. And I am mixing brown and this green, and I'm adding a tiny bit of that light green to make the color lighter. I'm mixing kind of like this. I want to make sure that I don't see any of my wood board. So make sure you go over touching everything. I'm adding a little tiny bit more brown. You can even use some of that sandstone to lighten it a bit. So see how I'm trying to cover all the wood canvas. When you get to the top, mix a little bit of yellow in with that. And even if you see the yellow, you don't have to, cover everything. the yellow can kind of mix in with the green, so you can kind of see in the yellow. So you don't always have to over mix everything. Make sure you cover your beach. So after we've done this layer, there should not be any canvas open. Now all the layers have some paint somewhere. I am taking a bit of the dark green and I just tap, 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 tap here. Making a little darkish shape here. So I use yellow and the light green to make the greens a bit lighter instead of white. And then I use my brush very softly to kind of up and down movement so it can look like grass. And I want to kind of transition into this one, like gradually coming in. So now I want to bring in a little bit of the dark green so I can kind of start blending and have like an uneven edge. And while it's still wet, it's a little easier. But I do not want to use too much paint. I'm mindful for how much I pick up. Then we can come back to the green ones here. So always give it time to dry a little bit more before you go back. I'm gonna come here at the bottom where it's kind of grassiness, and I'm gonna turn my paintbrush to this side and flick, flick, flick a little bit. Taking some of the dark green to bring a little bit back. I'm gonna put my brush in the cup, and I'm gonna wash that one because I want to use it again. I need my greens to dry. So before I do anything else, I want to make sure that my yellow is reflecting on my water. I want to come back and add that. So it needs for us to be dry to do this. If there's any wet spot, it will turn green. So we want to be careful. I'm going to get the yellow and some peach and a little bit of the sandstone. And I'm actually going to make a wash. So I'm going to drip a little bit in my water cup and I'm going to make it very runny. I'm getting rid of that extra drop. And then I want to add this on my white sections. So the reflection of the sky is now on my white. So I'm turning it more sunshine, more warm, so it matches my sky. I cannot do that when everything is wet because like I said, then the green, it will turn green. So you wait for it to dry, you go back, the yellow, a little bit of that peach. You can touch your water cup to make it a bit more watery. You don't want to cover everything. You just want to do the white. You just want to tint it yellow. And then let it dry. Let's check our beach. If you think your beach needs a little bit more, you can definitely change the color a little bit. My beach looks maybe now not happy enough. Let me just see. Basically what I just used. Yeah, basically what I just used, like the peach, the yellow, the purple. I didn't use purple in my water, but and again, you don't have to make it super. You can just, it's like a little wash over it. Definitely more golden. I think it looks better, but whatever beachy you go for. I'm adding a tiny bit of purple to that yellow and maybe one head of blue, just so I can make more. I don't know what I'm looking at that. I want to add that dark spot. It looks good. Okay. Now I have everything. Even my mountains kind of look cool to me, but I may have to come back to them. I'm going to go to a small round brush. Small, kind of, I don't know, quarter of your pinky nail for the details here. So there you don't see a lot of details, but the closer you get to your body, you will see more detail. I'm making it wet to begin with. And I want to do, so now you want to be happy with whatever you have over here. One thing that I noticed is that I went a little up. So I'm going to just flip it over quickly. See if I can get that color. Sort of, kind of. And I just want to make it straight. So for me, it is easier when I see where to point my brush so I can get a little, I get it in there. I can see versus doing it from this angle. Okay, see, much better. That's a small detail. You may have not even noticed it. I did. Okay. So now you want to be happy with basically everything before you start with this, because this is going to be all of these details. So I'm starting to make my brush wet to begin with. I'm adding some blue. My blue is already dry to get it very dark. Even though this green is really dark, I might not even need the blue, but let's see. So by making my brush wet, I know it will go on a little easier. So I want to come and see how it is touching a little bit of my water. So I know it needs to come up, kind of like that. Add maybe some of the light green, and then just put your brush down and make tiny leaves. And if I can, I'm going to lift up now to show you. It's basically, I'm not painting, I'm tap, tap, tap. I'm going to show you now. So there's not really, you just kind of want to tap, tap, tap. Then you want to come in with a light green. And here and there, you want to give a little light green on your dark green. Okay. So now there's quite a whole bunch of like spiky thingies. So I'm going to cover some of my peach. And here. And here. And I'm adding a few more leaves. So now we have all the shadow areas like this. We have all these shadow areas, it's that. So basically, we need to come with a lighter one and paint leaves and plants on top. So I'm going to do a few big leaves like this, and I'm going to do tap, tap, tap. See for this one. I am going to do tap, 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 tap. Put it this side so you can see. I'm going to come back, and on top of the dog, I'm adding all of this. So I started at the bottom a little bit. But now, and this is where a small brush is much nicer. So you just want to kind of with your paintbrush. And you want to play around with different greens. Maybe add a little bit of a yellow in it. I think I'm going to do one layer and then add here. And then you always can come back and add more. I make sure that my hand is touching somewhere so my lines is nice and skinny. So I can control my brush, the amount how I push down. And then I'm going to do a few more leaves. And this is basically just pushing down with my paintbrush. And if you went a little too crazy, you know, you can always come back with the darker color and take it a bit away. Nobody's really going to see um or look at to see what kind of plants they are, right? So just do little tiny leaves. I don't know, I was looking for a different word, but they're leaves, they're plants. Over here, I want to do a few more like of these spiky thingies. So they are dark. So and make sure your hand is down. So you can have nice and skinny lines. If your paint gets dry, you can always touch your water cup a little bit, but you don't want to water down the paint too much. Add a little brown here. Um, looks like there's grass. See how you're building it up. It takes a minute, but it looks really cute if you've done, if you take your time and you do all of it. So I'm adding a brown and yellow too, and I never try not to wash my brush in between. I know some people do a lot, but I don't. And so now I'm going to transition a little bit more to these ones. So a little bit more brown. I may need more yellow. Let's see. Mm, I may need a little bit more yellow. And now we want to come and do this one. So again, your first layers can be, and then you have to build it on top. But if I can just zoom in to show you how you can kind of see. Oh, no, zoom in. Sometimes it's so fast, and then sometimes it's just not. Oh, wow. I'm adding a little bit of that cream. Also, try to stay away from white because it makes it really like a pastel color. So try your best to stay away from white if you can. If you don't have a cream color. Take a sip of your coffee. And see these ones, these like little grassy things that will go into that dark green to kind of break it up. Let me see if I can zoom. I kind of wanted to show my paint palette, but let me see if I come a little closer. I'm just getting a little bit more yellow. My yellow is all dry. So I don't want to just use the yellow like that. I want to mix it with whatever I have here. I make sure my hand is very steady on the table. So when I do the flicks, I don't squish down too hard with my paintbrush. Flicking away, flicking towards you, see which one is better. And then I want to have more yellow. So I can do, it's basically, I'm going to add even a little orange to it. And maybe a little bit of the cream and the white. To do these little highlight spots. So it's more like a tap, 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 tap. Okay, so it's one of those things where you just have to, you just layer upon layer upon layer. Maybe use the yellow as is, do a little more. And just keep on going. And I'm repeating the same color everywhere. So you want to kind of repeat, repeat, repeat. Layer on top of layer. So you just want to do, and you can always switch to even a smaller brush if you want to. But wait in between for all the layers to dry. Then I want to go back into some green again. So now I want to do this little bush. He is very dark, so there's not a lot happening in it. This one. But you can see a few leaves, and then there's a few leaves on this side too. And when you keep on adding, because you do want to have some texture in there, you don't want to just have it not. So then you add between, you mix it. I'm adding some orange to this green, maybe a little brown to do the edge. And see how it goes up into the ocean, and it's a little, you can see, that's what you want to do too. So make sure your brush and your bristles are still together, and then go in there and make an uneven edge into your water. And because the contrast is so high, against the light water. It's really dark. So even though we painted this background a dark color, you still want to come just back and do a few little taps to get that edge uneven and to get that texture here. And if you feel you went a little too light, you can always just come back and do a dark one kind of on top or make it smaller. And then we need to do the ground here at the bottom. I'm gonna just quickly see if I have some black. Or some gray. What is this? This is black. I have black. So here, I'm going to switch to the flat brush just to begin with. I want to do black. I want to do the cream color. Oh, see now you cannot see when I'm mixing here instead of white. I am pointing now. It's you kind of want to do because we already have a layer, right? So you're going to point here a little bit and then it's like coloring in. You just kind of want to like swishy here and there. I'm not everywhere, so if I can zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. And some areas are a little bit darker, so we're even going to come back and make more, but close to where you think the shadows are. Go in with your dark gray and then just go a little over it. Look at that texture I'm giving. You can come with a little bit more cream or even a bit white. Be careful of the white now. And you can tap. And the idea is to make your texture so it looks like the rocks or the gravel or the whatever that is. So we don't want to make it too smooth. So you kind of want to see something texture. And by doing this, so basically you take your brush and you go like this, flat. And you just want to, with little paint, that's how you can get that kind of cool texture. But now go to your small brush again, because now what we need to do is I'm going to go in my blue, not my black. Well, maybe a little bit of black. And what we want to do is we want to get some very dark areas here, because like, look at this one. There's like, oh, you cannot even really see. Okay, but there's like really dark areas. So I want to make sure where I'm touching my green, there's some dark areas here. So I'm just going to come back and give a few dark areas. Especially close where it's touching. It looks a little weird. I'm gonna come back and then I'm gonna just use my brush, my wet brush, and I'm just gonna kind of move some of that paint a bit. You can always come back with your green if you did too much, and you can just kind of tap, tap, tap a little bit on top of it. But at least you have like a little bit of a darker edge right there. And then more contrast is always nice. So if you want to come back and add a few super dark areas, especially if you had a few that went that's too light or your leaves are too big, just come with this one and kind of make it skinny again. So more layering, the more detail you can give, the more busier you can make it, the nicer ultimately it kind of looks. You know what I'm saying? Then there's always the point we have to lift it up and be like, do I need to do anything on my mountain? Do I like my mountain? I think I like my mountain. So I may want to soften my cloud. Sometimes you only see or realize what is happening when everything is done and you're like, maybe it's a little too dark. So I'm just gonna get some white and some of that peach. Oh, paint dries so fast. And I actually have one of those wet palettes, which I definitely should use, but why would I? And I just want to say, never be afraid of mixing or drying or painting over. You know what's nice about the wood blocks is if you don't like it, you can sand it down and start again. Different, little bit different with the canvas, but with wood blocks, you can definitely just sand it down and begin again. I, I think I am done. However, I do think I have too much going the same here. So I'm just going to take some of the blue and brown. And I may now mess it up. So let's see. Again, I'm using my brush very flat to the side. Can even take off a little bit more paint. Was not the same blue. Maybe I should just leave it alone. No, because now I should have left it alone. Oh, wait, it looks good. When in doubt, don't touch it, right? Maybe. See, now I even wondered if I should add a little bit here. Okay, leaving it. Oh, should we add the people? Maybe. Get a very skinny brush. I'm gonna do a thing. With a whole bunch together. I think we may only have 3 people. There's one here also. I can definitely add some of those rocks. And then we are done. Let me just see scale wise. They're basically here. If it's difficult to paint, like touch your water cupboard like barely. Just make the tip of your brush wet. And then they are too bright, too black. So we need to just soften the tip piece. And I'll zoom in. I'm not sure what he's holding. Is he carrying a table? I'm not sure. So I made it black and then adding a little bit on top. We don't need to be able to identify these people. They're just small on the beach, beaching. This one's leg got a little out of hand. This one is in a wave. Yeah. Think we are calling it done. Thank you so much for painting.